Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be exploring how to maybe find a bit more peace in our crazy world.
Ooh, I like
We're
some.
diving into Pema Chödrön's audiobook, Taking the Leap.
Okay.
It's packed with some really practical wisdom, I think we can all use a little bit more peace these days.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've been thinking a lot about that saying about feeding the right wolf.
Oh, yeah,
Have you ever heard that one?
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all about, those choices that we make.
Yeah, like how we react when things get tough.
Exactly.
And that's a big part of what Chödrön dives into in this book. It's about how we can actually train our minds to respond differently to all those like difficult emotions. And
Yeah.
she uses this Buddhist concept called sha.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Now, sha,
Yeah.
I have to admit, when I first saw that word, I was like,
Yeah.
what is that?
It sounds a little intimidating.
Yeah, it sounds a little intimidating. So how would you explain sha to someone who's like never encountered it before?
Okay, so imagine you have this mosquito bite,
Right.
and it's just driving you crazy.
Yeah.
You should not scratch it.
Yeah.
But the urge is just so strong.
Oh, yeah.
That feeling of being totally consumed by the itch,
Yeah.
like wanting to react even though, it's going to make things worse.
Yeah.
That's essentially what shy is that feeling of being hooked
Okay.
by an emotion of just losing control and getting swept away.
So it's not just like having negative emotions. It's about getting like totally caught up in them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We all experience anger,
Hmm.
sadness, fear. It's part of being human.
Right.
But shy is that extra layer. It's that clinging, that feeling of being completely gripped by the emotion.
Okay.
And then we react in ways that we might later regret.
Ugh. Yeah, I think we've all been there, right?
Over.
Saying something in the heat of the moment that we wish we could take back.
Yes.
Or making a decision when we're like super emotional and then later we're like, why did I do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Chödrön actually uses this vivid metaphor of two wolves
Oh, yeah.
battling inside us.
I love that one.
One representing, our more reactive, destructive tendencies.
Yeah.
The other representing, our calmer, wiser self.
Hmm.
And of course, the wolf we feed grows stronger.
Right.
And Shah is like throwing a whole steak to that negative wolf.
I love that image. That really speaks to me. So, okay, how do we start feeding the right wolf? How do we break free from that cycle of sha?
Well, Chödrön emphasizes that the first step is simply becoming aware of when we're getting hooked,
Okay.
recognizing those patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And she gives some really relatable examples. Have you ever noticed how you react when someone cuts you off in traffic?
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. My blood pressure instantly spikes. I might even yell something out the window. I'm proud of it, but
That's shy in action.
it is.
Or think about a time when someone said something really hurtful to you.
Yeah.
Did you immediately tighten up? Can you feel that surge of anger or resentment?
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. It's like a knee-jerk reaction before you can even think about it.
Right. And Chödrön argues that recognizing these patterns is crucial
Okay.
because once we see how Sha operates, we can start to create a little space between the emotion and our reaction.
So it's about like interrupting that automatic response. But how do we actually do that in the heat of the moment?
Chödrön has a surprisingly simple suggestion.
Boss.
Take 3 conscious breaths.
Really?
It sounds almost too easy,
Yeah.
but that pause can be incredibly powerful.
It's like hitting the pause button on a movie, right? You step out of the story for a moment.
Exactly.
And
And
if-
you just observe.
And in that space of observation, we have a choice.
Okay.
Instead of just blindly reacting, we can ask ourselves, is this how I want to respond? Will this action actually make me feel better?
I've actually been trying to incorporate those 3 breaths into my daily life, and I'm surprised by how much of a difference it makes.
It's such a simple practice, but it really can shift our whole perspective.
It's like creating a tiny gap between the stimulus and our response.
And giving us a chance to make a more conscious choice.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
And Chödrön goes even further, suggesting that we can actually transform those difficult emotions
Okay.
into wisdom.
Now I have to hear more about transforming negative emotions into wisdom. How is that even possible?
Well, she outlines this 3-step practice,
Okay.
and it starts with that pause we were just talking about.
Okay.
First, you simply acknowledge the hook. You say to yourself, okay, I'm feeling angry, sad, anxious right now.
Right.
You don't judge it. You just name it.
So it's about accepting the emotion without resistance.
Exactly. Then you take those 3 conscious breaths and you actually lean into the feeling.
Wait, so you're saying we should actually lean into the discomfort? That seems so counterintuitive.
I know, right?
Mm.
But here's the thing. When we resist our emotions, they tend to grow stronger.
Okay.
It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater.
Uh-huh.
The more you push it down, the more forcefully it pops back up.
Yeah.
But if you allow it to float to the surface, it loses its power over you.
That's such a great analogy.
So we acknowledge the emotion.
Okay.
We breathe into it.
Uh-huh.
And then the final step is to relax and move on.
Oh, okay.
You don't dwell on the feeling, to don't overanalyze it.
Right.
You simply allow it to pass through you like a wave.
It sounds like a practice in letting go, in not getting so attached to those difficult emotions.
Exactly. And the amazing thing is, Chödrön says that as we practice this, those difficult emotions can actually become a source of wisdom and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
She even uses this incredible analogy of a peacock eating poison,
Wow.
which somehow results in more vibrant tail feathers.
That's a powerful image. So by leaning into those challenging emotions, we can actually transform them into something beautiful and beneficial.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that even our darkest experiences can hold valuable lessons if we're willing to approach them with curiosity and an open heart.
This all makes so much sense, but I have to be honest, I can imagine it being really challenging to actually put this into practice. I mean, Pema Chödrön is a renowned Buddhist teacher. She's dedicated her life to these practices. Can regular people like us really achieve this kind of transformation? I mean, it can feel a little daunting, right? Like, okay, this wise Buddhist nun can do it, but I'm just going to lose it when someone cuts me off in traffic.
Yeah, Chödrön actually addresses that very point. She shares this really humbling story about a time when she got so angry that she left a scathing voicemail for someone.
No way.
And she's been practicing these teachings for decades.
Seriously. That makes me feel so much better. It's proof that even those who are like deeply committed to this path still have those human moments.
Exactly. It's not about being perfect.
Right.
It's about recognizing when we mess up, offering ourselves some compassion, and starting again.
So it's a journey, not a destination. And it's about being kind to ourselves along the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that kindness towards ourselves is actually the foundation for being able to genuinely help others. Chödrön talks about this beautiful three-step process. It starts with maitri, which is often translated as loving kindness or unlimited friendliness towards ourselves.
Okay, so before we can even think about helping others, we need to cultivate that sense of warmth and compassion towards ourselves.
Right. It's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
If we're constantly beating ourselves up, if we're depleted and exhausted, we don't have anything to offer others.
That makes so much sense. So we cultivate maitri towards ourselves, and then what's the next step in helping others?
Chödrön says it's about communicating from the heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's about speaking and acting in a way that's authentic, kind, and compassionate.
Okay.
And it's not about being fake or putting on a show. It's about genuinely connecting with others on a human level.
So it's not just about what we say, but how we say it. Our tone, our intention, our energy, all of that matter.
Exactly. And the final step, she says, is about putting others before ourselves without expectation of reward.
Okay.
This is where it gets really challenging because it's easy to fall into the trap of helping others to boost our own egos or to get something in return.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. Sometimes I catch myself doing things for others because it makes me feel good about myself. Not necessarily because it's truly what they need.
It's a subtle but important distinction. Chödrön is encouraging us to really examine our motivations
Yeah.
and to ask ourselves, am I doing this from a place of genuine care or am I trying to get something out of it?
It's about moving away from that transactional way of relating to others and towards a more selfless, compassionate way of being.
Exactly. And she emphasizes that this kind of genuine, heart-centered helping can only arise from a foundation of kindness towards ourselves.
So it all comes back to that maitri, that self-compassion. It's the root of everything.
Now, another really interesting idea that Chödrön explores is the importance of pain.
Okay.
She suggests that pain can actually be a teacher, revealing the impermanence of things and our interconnectedness with others.
Wait, so instead of seeing pain as something to avoid at all costs, we can actually learn from it.
That's what she's saying. It's not about seeking out pain, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but about recognizing that it's an inevitable part of life and that it can actually offer valuable insights if we're open to them.
I can see how that would tie into the idea of impermanence. When we experience pain, it reminds us that everything is constantly changing, that nothing lasts forever.
Exactly. She shares a poignant story about going through her deceased mother's belongings and realizing how much her mother had clung to material possessions. It made her reflect on the emptiness of attachment, how those things couldn't offer lasting comfort or security.
It's a powerful reminder that those external things can't truly fulfill us.
And that recognizing impermanence can actually be a source of freedom.
Mm.
It allows us to let go of that tight grip on things to loosen the hold of Shaw.
So how does this all connect to our interconnectedness with others?
Well, Chödrön argues that when we experience pain, it opens our hearts to the suffering of others. We realize that we're not alone in our struggles, that everyone experiences loss, disappointment, heartbreak, and that shared experience can actually create a sense of connection and empathy.
It's like we're all in this together, navigating the ups and downs of life.
Exactly.
Mm.
And recognizing that shared humanity can help us cultivate more compassion both for ourselves and for others.
Now, another big emotion that Chödrön tackles is fear. She emphasizes that fear doesn't have to automatically lead to aggression.
Right.
We can choose to stay present with it and make a different choice.
She gives the incredible example of Jarvis Masters, an inmate on death row who has found a way to cultivate peace within a very violent environment.
Wow.
He chooses not to harm others even amid so much suffering.
That's such a powerful testament to the human spirit that even in the face of such adversity, we have the capacity to choose kindness.
And she reminds us that we all have that capacity, even in our everyday lives. When we feel that surge of fear, we can pause, take those 3 breaths, and create some space to make a conscious choice.
So it's about recognizing that space of choice that always exists, even when we feel overwhelmed by fear.
Exactly. It's about remembering that we're not at the mercy of our emotions, that we always have the power to choose how we respond.
Chödrön talks about this natural openness that's always available to us, even when we're feeling scared or overwhelmed. It's like the sky, always vast and spacious, even when clouds are passing through.
And we can access that spaciousness at any time. Just by pausing, taking those 3 breaths, and noticing the world around us. She gives some really simple but effective suggestions, like looking up at the sky, noticing the details of our surroundings, bringing awareness to our senses.
It's about grounding ourselves in the present moment, interrupting that cascade of thoughts and emotions that can pull us away from our experience.
And in that space of observation, we can connect with that natural openness, that inherent peace that's always available to us.
Now, I think it's really important to acknowledge that this is a lifelong practice. We're not going to become enlightened beings overnight.
Chödrön is very honest about that. She emphasizes that it's a journey, a process of continually returning to these practices, of learning to stay present with our experience, however messy or uncomfortable it might be.
And she reminds us to be kind to ourselves along the way. It's not about perfection, but about showing up with a willingness to learn and grow.
She even suggests that we celebrate those moments when we do catch ourselves getting hooked, those times when we manage to interrupt the chain reaction. It's a cause for rejoicing, not self-judgment.
So it's about recognizing our progress, however small, and appreciating our own capacity to wake up.
And she also talks about how to relate to those times when we do mess up, when we get swept away by our emotions. Instead of wallowing in guilt or shame, she suggests that we use those experiences as a reminder of our shared humanity.
That we all struggle with these things, that none of us are perfect.
And that recognizing our own flaws can actually make us more compassionate towards others. We can look at someone who's behaving badly and think, hey, I've been there. I know what it's like to get caught in that cycle.
It's a powerful shift in perspective, isn't it? Instead of judging or condemning, we can approach others with a sense of understanding and empathy.
Because we recognize that we're all in this together. We're all navigating the complexities of being human with all its messiness and beauty.
And that ultimately connecting with that shared humanity is what allows us to cultivate true kindness and compassion, both for ourselves and for others.
Now, Chödrön also talks about the importance of bringing this practice into our daily lives, not just limiting it to our meditation cushion.
So how do we actually do that? How do we take these teachings and make them a part of our everyday experience?
She suggests that we start by noticing those small moments of those everyday annoyances that trigger us.
Like someone cutting us off in traffic or the store being out of our favorite item.
Exactly. Those seemingly insignificant moments are actually perfect opportunities to practice.
Because let's be honest, we all encounter those little irritations multiple times a day.
And instead of just mindlessly reacting, we can use those moments to pause, breathe, and choose a different response.
It's like a mini meditation, right? Bringing that mindful awareness into the midst of our busy lives.
She even suggests that practicing with those little things actually prepares us for the bigger challenges that life inevitably throws our way.
So it's like building up our emotional resilience muscles so that when a real crisis hits, we're better equipped to handle it.
And she reminds us that it's not about becoming some kind of emotionless robot. We're not trying to eradicate our feelings altogether.
It's more about learning to ride the waves, so to speak, to experience our emotions fully without getting swept away by them.
And to bring a sense of kindness and curiosity to whatever arises recognizing that even the most difficult emotions are simply a part of our human experience.
Yeah, it's like we're training for an emotional marathon, right? Building up those mental muscles
I like that.
so we can navigate whatever life throws our way.
It's a beautiful way to put it. And just like with physical training, consistency is key.
Right,
We don't expect to run a marathon after one day of jogging.
right.
It takes time, effort, and a lot of patience.
So how can we apply this to our own lives? What are some concrete steps we can take today to start, feeding the right wolf, so to speak?
Well, Chödrön reminds us that it's not about making drastic changes overnight.
Okay.
It's about those small, consistent efforts that over time can create a real shift in our way of being.
Mm.
Remember that simple practice of pausing and taking 3 conscious breaths?
Oh, yeah.
That's a great place to start.
I've been making a conscious effort to do that throughout the day, and I'm honestly surprised by how helpful it is.
Yeah.
Even just those few seconds of slowing down, of creating a little space, can really make a difference.
It's like hitting the reset button,
Yeah.
giving ourselves a chance to respond rather than just react.
Right.
And it's something we can do anytime, anywhere. Waiting in line at the grocery store,
Yep.
take 3 breaths.
Yep.
Feeling overwhelmed by your to-do list,
3 breaths.
3 breaths. Notice that feeling of irritation bubbling up.
3 breaths.
You guessed it, 3 breaths.
I love it. It's so simple, yet so profound. What other small steps can we take to cultivate more peace in our daily lives?
Well, Chödrön talks about the importance of noticing those fleeting moments of joy and contentment throughout the day.
Okay.
It could be something as small as savoring that first sip of coffee in the morning, appreciating the warmth of the sun on your skin, or feeling a sense of gratitude for a kind gesture from a stranger.
It's about training ourselves to focus on the good, on the things that bring us a sense of peace and happiness, rather than getting bogged down by the negative.
Exactly. It's like we're actively choosing to feed the right wolf, to nourish those positive qualities within ourselves. And the more we do that, the stronger those qualities become.
It's like we're building up a reservoir of inner peace that we can draw on when things get tough.
And remember, it's a practice.
Right.
There will be times when you succeed and times when you get swept away by those old habits.
Oh, yeah.
But that's okay. The key is to simply notice when you've gotten off track and gently bring yourself back to the present moment.
So no beating ourselves up when we mess up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Self-compassion is essential. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer to a good friend.
One thing that really resonated with me from Chödrön's teachings is the idea that we can actually transform those difficult emotions into wisdom. That instead of trying to avoid pain, we can actually learn from it.
It's a powerful shift in perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
Instead of seeing pain as the enemy, we can recognize it as a teacher, as an opportunity for growth and transformation.
It reminds me of the Japanese art of kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold.
Well, yeah.
Highlighting the cracks as part of the object's beauty and history. It's like we're taking those broken pieces of ourselves, those painful experiences, and using them to create something even stronger and more resilient.
That's a beautiful analogy.
Yeah.
And it highlights the idea that our imperfections, our struggles, are not something to be ashamed of, but rather something to be embraced as part of what makes us unique and whole.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious to hear what stood out to you the most from Chödrön's teachings. What will you take away from this exploration?
For me, it's the reminder that true peace and happiness are not dependent on external circumstances. They're qualities that we can cultivate within ourselves
Yeah.
through practices like mindfulness, compassion, and self-awareness.
I completely agree. It's empowering to realize that we have more control over our inner state than we often think, and that even in the midst of challenges, we can choose to cultivate a sense of peace and well-being.
So what small step can you take today to start cultivating more peace in your own life? It might be setting a reminder to pause and breathe throughout the day. It might be noticing those moments of joy and contentment, however fleeting. Or it might be simply offering yourself a little more compassion the next time you mess up. Remember, we all have the capacity to create a kinder, more peaceful world, starting with our own hearts and minds.